Hello my mellow fellows, or should I say my lovely lady lovers. It's Tara here and I'm super excited to talk about a very special lady in pink. Someone who is a fan favorite for both her chaotic energy and her super strong loyalty to the Belchers. Yes, I am talking about the famous Nat Kinkle.
Another marriage saved by old Nat Kinkle.
Wait, your name is Nat Kinkle?
Yeah, Nat Kinkle. Kinkle. How are you hearing it?
No, never mind. Just like that.
Nat is someone who is fun to talk about. She has one of the best character introductions in Bob's Burgers. From her very first scene, she steals the show. Nat feels like an older version of Louise, but with the money and resources to act out her impulsive thoughts. People love her because she's so authentically herself. It's so comforting to see someone who is so weird yet so confident in herself. So today, I want to bring you guys on a journey of Nat Kinkle. Because she's only been in a handful of episodes, we will be talking about her on an episode by episode basis. So that means we'll be starting from her most iconic episode, which just happens to be her introduction. Then from there, we'll talk about her other appearances. So sit back, relax with your lizards, as we talk about our favorite lesbian auntie, Nat. Let me introduce you guys to Nat, one of the most iconic side characters in the show. Nat is a middle-aged limo driver who is very hard to describe. She is the type of character that you have to experience to get the vibe of. Nat is a woman who is confident, impulsive, and extremely loyal to her friends. Speaking of friends, Nat has a lot of friends in strange places. She's the type of person who has a plug for anything you may need. To put it simply, because of the strange life she leads, she has connections everywhere. She is the type of friend who will always have what you need, or at the very least know how to get it. Nat is loyal to a fault. When she's on your side, best believe she'll do everything in her power to make you happy. And if that includes getting revenge on your enemies, she has your back. Now, you may end up in jail after the shenanigans she gets you involved in, but at the very least, you will be avenged. That's what counts. Nat is a recent addition to the Belcher's many friends. She is a very social and strangely fun person to be around. She mostly wears her pink suits, but we have seen her in more casual outfits. Either way, she's always wearing pink. It's very Elle Woods of her. I especially love her pink button-up shirt look. That's my favorite one. Nat befriended the Belcher girls first, but quickly grew to love Bob and Jean when she met them too. Nat is crazy, but in a fun way. Nat is like the little devil on your shoulder, encouraging you to give in to your inner desires. She is the perfect level of bad influence that keeps things interesting. Nat's first appearance was in season 8, episode 8. V is for Valentine Detta. I already spoke about this episode partly in my Jimmy Jr. video, but this time we'll have more emphasis on Nat's role. In this episode, Tina was heartbroken over Jimmy Jr. dumping her for another girl on Valentine's Day. Tina was depressed and wallowing in self-pity on the couch. That's when Linda decides to take her out for Valentine's Day and go on a girls' day instead. So Linda, Tina, and Louise start their girls' day adventure by treating themselves to a pink limo. This is where our homegirl Nat is introduced. From the moment that Nat met them, she was friendly and had a very natural chemistry with the girls. When Linda told Nat that Tina was having a bad day, Nat and Linda did everything in their power to make the day fun for her. The only rule Nat gave is that nobody's allowed to put their head above the sunroof. Why? Well, obviously because of all the decapitations that the government's been covering up. After the movie Big, people started sticking their heads up in the sunroof and then off with their heads. Where's my source? Well, Nat told me.
But you didn't hear anything about it, I'm sure, right? Right?
I didn't hear anything.
Yeah, not a word. Government covered it up.
Oh my gosh.
Thomas Hanks himself got paid a bunch of hush money.
How much?
Around $12,000.
That all checks out.
In the first few minutes of meeting Tina, Nat offered to run over Jimmy Jr. for breaking her heart. However, Linda declined that very kind offer and instead decided good old-fashioned fun is in order for heartbreak. From the first time she met them, she was 10 toes down, and I admire that. According to Nat, after she gets her heart broken, things like lizards and throwing beans at meter maids helps her process her feelings better. I'm more partial to geckos and turtles and frogs, but to each their own. She even carries a tub of baked beans with her just in case she needs to hurl it at somebody. I also wanted to add that Louise adores Matt. Louise has never taken to an adult this quickly or this much at all before. Louise has very little respect for adults and she's more of a kid crusader. She would be perfect for the kids next door. So to see her admire Nat so much is really cute. Nat is very much like Louise. She has that chaotic spirit that's naturally kindred with Louise's rebellious energy.
But we should probably get a bunch of baked beans just in case.
What do you think this is for, little miss?
I knew I'd find my real mom someday.
Nat is also a great hype woman. She calls them gorgeous, beautiful, and praises Louise's creativity.
Isn't she breathtaking? Aw, look at her.
I'm looking at her and I literally cannot breathe. And with you, what was the thought process?
Nightmares?
Love it.
Technically, her job was to drive them around. However, she went above and beyond to make their day special. I can't really emphasize enough how quickly she bonded with them. By the time they finished their makeovers, she was fully on Tina's side and brainstorming ways to get Jimmy Jr. back. From the jump, she hated Jimmy Jr. She was on Tina's side automatically, and I love that for her.
We ought to figure out where this kid is that messed you up. What'd you say his name was?
Jimmy Jr.?
Yeah, terrible name. I hate him because of his name. We find out where he is, and then we go down there and you say, hey, look at what you're missing. And then you throw a drink or a smoke bomb on it.
In this episode, Linda was the responsible one trying to keep Nat and Louise on a leash, which is a nice change of pace considering Linda is usually the one needing to be reeled in by Bob. Linda appreciated the aggressive support from Nat, but she just wanted to cheer Tina up naturally without the need of revenge. So they spent the day trying to have fun. They rode by pickles, danced in fountains, nearly being chased by the popos. They went in the car wash, making some extra cheese, and they even went to go play on the beach. Still, nothing was working and Tina was still down. Lastly, they stopped at the tiramisu warehouse for dessert. I love tiramisu, it's one of my favorite desserts. Unfortunately, they couldn't get a table because it's Valentine's Day, obviously. Thankfully, Nat got them a table.
Follow my voice! Follow!
Nat, how did you do it?
I know the owner. Saved his life. After I hit him with my car. Now, should we get the Mega Masu flight or the Ultra Mega?
Oh, man, Nat, you sit next to me, Kay, and I mean forever.
Like, girl, what? Why are we skipping over that? Nat's a type of person with such crazy lore that every single time you hang out with her, you find out some super weird, crazy thing about her that's so unhinged. And I love that. It's wonderful. Nat's next suggestion was to get a dead horse to send Jimmy Jr. a message.
I don't want to beat a dead horse, but we could get a dead horse. And we don't put it in the kid's bed, he'd be expecting that. We put it in his backpack under his homework. He reaches in, all proud he did his homework, and bam, dead horse.
It's a perfect plan. Let's get the check.
All right.
Louise thought it was a perfect plan and they were this close to doing it too. Linda put a pin in that and once again asked Tina what was really bothering her. Tina took this breakup so much harder than she has other times he's broken up with her. So what makes this off period much harder than the others? Tina finally reveals that the reason that she's upset is because Jimmy Jr. used the Valentine's picture frame she made him to put another girl's picture in it. I already spoke at length about this in my Jimmy Jr. video, so I'm not going to rehash this too much, but I will say it again, this is truly one of Jimmy Jr.'s worst episodes. Truly. Pisses me off every time. The girls were rightfully furious when they found this out, and at this point they decided to get active. Linda agreed to do Nat's plan. Nat thought she meant the dead horse plan, and immediately started to get her guy on the phone. I want to know why there's a guy on speed dial for this, but sometimes it's better not to ask. She did say that since it's Valentine's Day, he might be low on horse heads, but he could have something in the raccoon family. Obviously, Linda shut this plan down in favor of a less violent plan. They decided to go with the stink bombs instead, and just like that, Operation Payback was a go. They go to the car to plan out their attack. Nat suggests that first they find him and then they hit him with the stink bomb.
A stink bomb. I got a whole glove compartment full of them. I throw them at white guys, pigeons, people I've dated, etc.
But first, they need to find Jimmy. Nat asks Tina if she so happened to put a tracking device on Jimmy, or maybe sewn one in his neck while he was sleeping or unconscious. Sadly, Tina didn't.
No.
Tina! Oh!
I'm sorry.
Damn it. That's okay. That's okay. And you have no
Sorry.
idea where he might be taking Becky tonight.
I don't know.
So instead, they decide to track down Becky. Louise had an idea to call Tammy for information, and of course, Tammy had Becky's number.
Hey, Tammy, it's Louise Belcher. I need Becky Crespi's number.
What for?
To do something mean.
That's hilarious. Okay, it's 201.
I swear, Tammy is horrible, but she is one of the funniest people on the show. Louise called Becky's mom and was told that she was home. They decided to go over there to kind of follow them around. Tina, being an already professional stalker, knew where she lived. So they went over to Becky's house, hopefully to catch Jimmy Jr. picking her up. But before they could, Nat got stuck trying to get between the partition and she had to be pushed through.
Oh, my bra unhooked. Oh, I landed on my hand grenade.
Hand grenade?
No one freak out. The guy who sold it to me said it was inactive. Let's see. Yep, we're good.
Again, why is she buying inactive hand grenades? Why? Soon enough, they went to go spy on Jimmy Jr. picking up Becky for their date, which he was 3 hours late to, by the way.
There he is, little Jimmy Jerko.
Look at him walking around with his evil, stupid legs.
Nat, follow that car.
You got it, T.
Ah, you're gonna hit him!
Sorry, I got excited.
I'm telling you guys, she was itching to take Jimmy Jr. out and risk it all. She was going to jail that night. Nat stands on business and I appreciate that loyalty. Nat gets them to the restaurant through the back because one of the busboys happens to be her sensei, obviously. They sneak in the bathroom in a completely stealthy manner to go over the plan.
Okay, what's the signal?
Woof meow, woof meow.
Of course, it makes sense.
Woof meow, woof meow.
Completely professional. They sneak in and start phase 2. They go over the plan once more. Tina is supposed to go in close, drop the stink bomb, and ruin the date. And with that settled, they seal it with a girl power on 16.
3, 4, 5, 6.
Okay, 16!
Let her finish, Mom! Let her finish!
Girl power.
8,
Okay.
Keep going, Nat.
Okay,
Keep going.
9, 10,
10.
Let her finish!
Okay.
Keep going, Nat.
16.
Girl
Girl
power.
power.
This is the most fun I've ever had.
Long story short, Tina kind of screwed up the plan. Tina had a change of heart and decided not to ruin Becky's date because she didn't want to hurt her. However, when Jimmy dumped Becky at the dinner table and made her cry, Tina and the girls went through with the rest of the plan. Jimmy got stuck with a stink bomb and Tina escaped with Becky.
Hell.
I'll smell you in hell.
Wait, who are you?
And with that debacle behind them, the girls rode off in the night, united in girlhood. And to make things better, Nat finally let them go through the sunroof as long as they don't sue her.
Okay, I want you to repeat after me, and I'm taping it on my phone. Ready? I will not sue you if I get decapitated.
Will
not sue you if I get decapitated.
Let's eat some bugs! Yeah! Woo!
And that concludes her introduction to the series. Nat has one of the most fun introductions to the show. Usually it takes a character a minute to fully reach their potential. For example, Rudy only gets better and funnier with every season he has been in. The same can be said for characters like Randy or Mr. Fishoder. These characters needed time to build up to their true potential. From the very first episode, Nat was 10s across the board. She was perfect. This is how you introduce a very eccentric character. You give them a chance to be unhinged while also setting them up to come back in future episodes. And they did this with Nat flawlessly. This is my favorite Nat episode, and I'm sure it's a lot of people's favorite too. The next time we see Nat is in season 10 episode 1, The Ring, but not scary. Bob buys Linda an engagement ring for their anniversary. When Bob proposed to Linda, he didn't have a ring. Instead, they just high-fived and later got married at City Hall. So he got her a ring this year to make up for that. He was proud to have finally been able to give Linda a proper ring. Bob felt really good about himself and was excited that he was able to give her a present that he knew that she would love and wear. Side note, the fact that Teddy has notifications on his phone for anniversaries and their birthdays and literally any and all information about the Belchers saved on his phone is both creepy and hilarious and also kind of sad. Plus, he had a song prepared for Bob to sing to Linda in case he forgot about his anniversary.
Linda,
Teddy.
You're so pretty, it's a sin.
Teddy.
What?
I remembered, okay? I remembered our anniversary.
You did?
That day, the kids were snooping in their parents' room while waiting for Linda to take them to the water park. They found the ring in the super secret hiding place and proceeds to take turns trying it on. However, when it was Gene's turn to put it on, he couldn't get it off. They went to the water park with the ring on, trying their best to hide it from Linda. They tried to get the ring off one more time, but eventually just accepted that it was stuck. They decided to deal with the problem later and just enjoy the water park right now. While they were floating in a lazy pool, they happened to run into our good sis Nat, who happens to be enjoying her pool time.
Hey, Tina! Louise! Boy Louise! What's shaking?
Not the limo driver? As I live and breathe.
Oh, hi. Cool swim shoes.
Oh no, these are regular shoes. They're just wet.
Just a reminder that this is her first time meeting Jean, and later this will be her first episode meeting Bob as well. If you're wondering what's new with her, well, recently she did drive a guy to the airport who didn't know who Tom Cruise was, and yeah, that's what she's been up to. Nat comes to the water park every day on her breaks. She knows the ticket seller and gets in for free.
I know one of the ticket sellers. We were next to each other in a human chain that saved a chihuahua that had fallen into the half pipe at a skate park.
Sometimes she just goes there for lunch, but one time she did fall asleep there and ended up in the ocean.
Explain that.
Your life is perfect.
It is. It really is.
For the rest of the day, the kids just have fun at the water park while Linda gets a nice lobster red tan going on. However, once they get to the car, they realize that the ring was gone. They freak out a little bit but remain quiet and just went home. It wasn't until dinner when the kids realized the severity of the situation. Before this point, the kids figured this ring was for Christmas, but at dinner they found out that this present was for their parents' anniversary, which was tomorrow. After hearing Bob describe hints to Linda, they put the pieces together.
Let's just say you really make me shine, and you'll want to be around to get the gift.
Oh, I know. It's a donut. A bagel? Is it a bagel? No, it's a hat.
Oh my
A
God.
knife. A bagel. No, don't tell me.
To make things worse, their anniversary was tomorrow, so the kids didn't have enough time to figure out how to replace the ring. Side note, it was really nice seeing how excited Bob was and how he was so proud that he had the chance to get her something nice for once. Too bad the kids ruined it. Bob really can't catch a break, can he? Anyways, once Tina starts doing a noise, the kids excuse themselves to the bathroom and proceeds to panic together. The kids freak out trying to brainstorm an idea on what to do. Meanwhile, Linda leaves to go help Gail with her eye drops because it's Gail. Jean suggested maybe asking Nat for help getting into the water park to search for the ring themselves. After all, Nat did have a friend to let them in. Louise calls Nat, who currently is at home chilling with her lizard, sharing snacks with it and, just vibing. Almost immediately, Nat put together what happened and quickly came up with a game plan.
So you guys were poking around for presents in your parents' room, huh? Found a ring, put it on, got it stuck, then lost it in the water?
Yup.
So you need to get in there tonight for search and rescue. Am I reading you right?
Loud and clear, Nat.
Okay, I'll call my water park buddy to come open her up. And I've got a bunch of snorkel masks and underwater flashlights from when I lived in a lake for a while.
While Gail kept Linda busy by throwing a full-on tantrum, the kids make plans to sneak out after bedtime. The kids tried to sneak out, but Bob was already waiting for them in the dark. The ring was missing and he knew exactly who did it. They were caught. This is genuinely the maddest I've seen Bob at his kids. Usually he's loud mad, but this time it was like a quiet rage. Obviously, they are so beyond grounded.
You're all grounded for the rest of your lives.
Oh, what a fun family outing.
And none of you are allowed to talk to me tonight or maybe ever again. And you're not my children anymore, and you're not allowed to come to my funeral.
Bob obviously goes with them to try to find the ring. In the limo, Bob was heated. He didn't even want them talking to him. That's how mad he was. Nat tried to lighten the mood by letting him know that she is good at finding things. Like one time she lost a candy bar at the park and found it 3 days later with some stuff still in it. She tells him the game plan and insists that it's best to go now rather than wait till daylight. The longer they wait, the more likely it is to be stolen. Since Bob was still very upset, she offers to play some calming classical music for him.
Do you like classical music?
Yes.
Da 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 da.
Okay, great,
da da da
thank
da.
Brilliant. Beautiful, really. Once they got to the park, Nat's friend Josie let her in and the Belcher squad to look for the ring. Nat also calls in a favor with her former all-women's group Puff Divers. They're a group of scuba and cannabis enthusiasts that Nat was a part of before she got sober. She says she misses it, but she still has to get up tomorrow for the rest of her life.
Hey gals, Tracy, looking good. Simone, sup. Janet, love the new wetsuit. Leslie, I still have your Tupperware, sorry about that. Carol, still mad at you. Denise, also sup.
Bob asks why she was doing this, and she simply says it's because she's a big fan of Linda. She's a girl's girl at the end of the day. They all go in overdrive trying to find this ring, and slowly Bob starts to lose hope. A while later, Linda calls Bob to let him know that she's heading home because Gail was being difficult. Bob insists on her staying and trying again. Eventually, he was able to convince her to not leave Gail and bought himself more time to look for the ring. Everyone continues to search tirelessly for the ring, trying their best to find it. However, Bob realizes that it was nearly impossible to find the ring and decides to call the search off. As Nat goes to let the girls know, Bob sinks into the water in defeat. He was disappointed that he couldn't impress Linda this year and felt like he failed her yet again, even though absolutely none of this was his fault. The kids felt incredibly guilty for this and apologized to their dad for ruining his anniversary.
I just wanted to feel beautiful. I never should have put it on. I'm sorry, Dad.
Do you want us to go live somewhere else? We could go to an orphanage for a while.
Just when all hope was lost, Nat yelled that they may have found something. Meanwhile, after many failed attempts to get Gail to take her eye drops, Linda ended up going home to get Bob to help her hold Gail down. But of course, she comes home to an empty house.
Well, where the hell are they?
Linda, have you been lying to me about being married and having kids?
Because that makes total sense, Gail. Total sense. At the water park, everyone gathered in anticipation as Nat pulls something shiny out of the drain, hoping it was the ring. But sadly, it was just a keychain. Just then, the owner shows up and was rightfully confused on why the hell all these people was in his water park. Bob steps in to defend Josie and tell the truth about what happened and how they were looking for his anniversary ring.
My wife, she deserves something nice for once. I was never able to buy her a real engagement ring. I meant to, but we run a small restaurant and we're poor and gross. I mean, she's great. I'm gross.
I'm the fun one.
Gene.
These little speeches are the reason I love Bob's Burgers because it's so sweet and comforting. In a sea full of cartoon couples who hate each other, it's nice to find one that just adores and loves each other. Linda then shows up with Gail and has heard everything Bob said. After reading Tina's diary, Linda knew the entire situation. Bob apologizes to her, but Linda reassures him that she doesn't need a ring to see how much he loves her. Their love is in everything they built together, not in material things.
You don't need to give me a big old ring to prove you love me.
Well, it wasn't big.
Well, I don't need it. I didn't need one then, and I don't need one now. Our love isn't in a big giant ring, you dummy.
It was very small.
Our love is in everything we've built together, after you begged me to settle for you. Mwah!
The owner decides to celebrate their anniversary by letting everyone relax in the water park. So Bob and Linda spend a relaxing time together floating in the lazy river. What an anniversary. At the end of the episode, we see that earlier that day, a bird actually took the ring and brought it to its nest, which happens to be right above Bob's Burgers. So in a way, the ring did make its way home. We even see this ring later in the series in the same exact spot. So currently in the show, the ring is still there, waiting to be discovered. Nat really came through in this episode. This episode really showed her dedication and loyalty to her friends. She called in favors, she organized a big search party, and spent her night searching for a tiny ring, all for Linda. We also learn more about her, like how she lived in a lake for a while somehow. We also learn that she's currently sober, which is nice to hear. Nat went all out to save their anniversary, and I think it really shows her character. In a world of fake friends and enemies and not knowing who to trust, it's nice to have a gal like Nat who is always willing to help you out of a jam. The next episode she stars in was season 10, episode 17, Just the Trip. It's the last day of spring break and everybody is stuck bored in a restaurant. The restaurant is slow because Teddy is in the middle of fixing a leak, which is obviously bad for business. Nobody wants to eat with water and sawdust dripping in your burger. The kids are bored and upset that this is how they spend their last day of spring break, which I get. The last day of freedom is really important to kids, so it's understandable. Just then, Nat pulls in with her famous pink limo. She stopped by to get some lunch before she goes off on a little road trip she was taking for the day. On the way to where she was going, she plans on listening to some jazzercise CDs to pass the time. You don't have to exercise to enjoy the music. Nat was going to her ex-girlfriend's animal sanctuary to drop off something important to her. Her ex's name is Teresa, and she runs a rescue. It's mainly a bunch of illegal, exotic animals that she takes in from rich people who abandoned them.
She's got an alligator that one of the Big Bangs kept in their hot tub. I'm not gonna say which Big Bang, but it's not the one you think.
Oh yeah, I heard about that. It was the one I thought.
She advised the Belchers to go on her on this day trip since they don't have anything else better to do. Linda was all for going, but Bob was hesitant, specifically because the kids are kind of at their worst when they're riding in a car for long periods of time. Bob suggests staying back and letting the rest of them go, but Linda insists on it being a family trip to make some memories. Plus, she wants to go see the animals with him. Bob relents and finally agrees to go on the trip. However, he is setting rules for the kids, rules that absolutely will be followed in this episode. Tina is not allowed to read in the car because she always gets motion sickness. Louise is not allowed to ask to stop at any weird roadside attractions, and Jean isn't allowed to pee in bottles during the trip. And with that, the road trip starts. They take off and so far everything is cool. That wasn't until Jean curiously looked inside the cooler Nat had in the back seat. Before Nat could warn Jean, he saw there was a snake in there and lost his mind. He was so freaked out that he jumped out of the limo and booked it down the street. Jean being afraid of snakes is nothing new. Jean's intense fear of snakes can be traced back all the way to season 3, episode 18, Is Snakes a Village? I personally love snakes and reptiles, but I understand why it freaks people out so much. As they run after Jean, Nat tells them that this is what she was taking back to Teresa, her snake Steve. They had a pair of snakes together called Adam and Steve, but when they broke up, they each got a snake in the breakup. However, Steve isn't thriving without Adam, so she thought it was best to reunite them. Also, Adam and Steve as snake names for a lesbian couple. Love it. Either way, this is the fastest and furthest we've seen Jean purposely run in a minute. He was out of there. Louise goes and tries to calm her terrified brother down. She tries to convince him to come back in limo, mainly because she wants to go to the Madness Castle, a show that Bob has specifically told her no to, but of course Louise has a plan in place to make sure it happens. But all that will be ruined if Jean gets the road trip canceled. Jean refused to go even when she tries to bribe him with money, but when she started to offer him candy, then he starts to listen.
Honestly, some of it I stole from you.
Do you have my peeps?
Yep.
I believed you when you told me some peeps turned into real chickens and fly away.
Yeah, they flew into my room.
Jean eventually agrees to come back as long as he gets the ride up front with the partition protecting him. They try again, and this time things seem to be going more smoothly. Everyone was relaxed and Bob even took a 3-minute nap, a new record for him.
Was I just sleeping?
Yes, you were.
Wow, I've never gotten a nap on a road trip before. It was amazing. We're probably almost there by now. How long was I out?
Oh, gosh. At least 2-3 minutes.
Oh. Well, still, it was nice.
Once Louise saw the Madness Castle billboard, she put her perfect plan into action. She slyly got Tina to read in the car, which triggers Tina's road sickness and causes her to puke all over the limo. They tried to quickly pull over, but it was too late. Nat reassures Tina that it was okay. People puke in limos all the time. Louise's plan worked flawlessly and they were parked right in front of the Madness Castle. Bob suspected that she did this on purpose, which, duh, of course she did. Come on, Bob. Before Louise can get in trouble, Steve ended up getting out of the cooler and slid onto Jean's poor shoulder. The partition was open, so he was able to get up front. Jean was so scared that he couldn't move. All he had to do was unlock the door and get out, but instead, in a panic, he wiggled through the partition and got stuck. Bob, being the good dad that he is, had to walk through Tina's barf and pull Jean out. They both landed in it and were covered in it, which was so gross. I feel so bad for them. Through the commotion, Steve ended up getting out and slid towards the attraction. Nat apologized to Jean and quickly went after Steve to try to go catch him. Meanwhile, Bob had to take Jean and Tina over to the gift shop to get them a change of clothes. Bob was absolutely not happy about spending $150 on new clothes. Mind you, all this was caused so Louise can see this place. Nat checked around and couldn't find Steve outside, so she asked if anybody wanted to help her come look in the house. Louise obviously volunteers to go and Bob went with her. After some failed haggling, Bob pays for them to get in to look for the snake. Once they got in, they realized that the place was a lame bootleg scam, which should be a surprise to no one because look at this place. On the bright side, they were able to find Steve pretty easily. Too bad for Bob, Steve fell asleep on his shoulders and it was safer to just let him sleep there rather than wake him up. Soon enough, they were able to start moving on the road again. Eventually, they finally ended up at the animal sanctuary, only to find the word sanctuary was a tad bit too strong here. It was more of a lawn full of reptile enclosures. Well, enclosures is still a strong word. How about a lawn full of reptiles in a bunch of weird cages? Turns out she does rescue all animals, but she only keeps the snakes. Everyone was kind of disappointed. They were expecting something more like a zoo. Mostly Bob, who was already irritated in the first place, so this didn't help. Teresa comes out and says hi to everyone and was rightfully confused about all these people she didn't know being at her house. For the first time, we saw Nat acting nervous. She tells Teresa she looks good and overall was anxious to be around her. Nat says that Steve has been a mess without Adam, but at this point it's clear that she's referring to herself being a mess without Teresa. It's clear that Teresa was the one who broke up with Nat because Nat is still very clearly into her. You can see Nat hesitating to go in for a hug to say goodbye, but decides not to. I want to emphasize that we've never seen her this nervous. Nat is usually so confident in herself, but when she's in front of a girl she likes, she turns into jelly. I mean, I guess you could say that's relatable. Nat turns to leave, but Bob was not happy about leaving so soon without seeing anything. This was the last straw for him, and he started to do one of his famous Bob rants about how bad the day was.
We're just gonna turn around and go right back now? There isn't even a, cute frog or something to see before we go? Bob! No! I mean, it took us 5 hours to make a 90-minute drive. Gene got attacked by a snake. There was throw up everywhere. We spent so much money at the Madness Castle, which was just a guy's house filled with junk. And now we're here, and there aren't any monkeys being friends with lions!
Okay, no one said for sure there'd be monkeys, honey.
Well, it's what I was picturing!
Okay, calm down.
However, he stopped ranting once Gene spoke up saying he actually had fun today. Tina and Louise also agree, saying they had fun too. Linda tells Bob that this is the whole point of a road trip. It's not about the places you go, but the memories you make on the way there. It's about giving the kids something to remember and to look back on.
And we'll never forget this trip. And that's the whole point. A road trip. Someone's always gonna barf or pee or lose a snake or poop in their undies and not tell anyone. But we gotta give our kids some stuff to remember.
Bob then calms down and apologizes for losing his cool. He may be grumpy and hate road trips, but he was glad his family had fun at least. And just when you thought we were in a wind down in the episode, Nat suddenly out of nowhere asked Teresa Shaw to marry her. Oh my god. Side note, do y'all think that this lady may be related to Honeybee Shaw by chance? Could be an aunt or a cousin, who knows? They are in the same universe after all. Teresa was flattered, but sadly she has to turn Nat down. And before you get mad at her, she actually had a valid reason. I mean, any reason is a reason to say no, but this is super extra valid. They were a terrible match together. They would argue about everything that wasn't animal related.
We couldn't even agree on what kind of pizza to order. I like cheese, you like hot dog with extra dry crust, which honestly is not even a kind of pizza.
It is.
Not. It is not.
It is.
No.
It is. It's little pieces of hot dog on pizza, and then they blow dry the crust.
See? We're fighting right now.
Nat accepted the proposal rejection and was obviously hurt all the same. As a last sign of goodwill, Teresa gave Nat a small bag of baby garter snakes. Since she gave up Steve, she only thought it was fair. They hugged it out and left on good terms for the most part. Though Nat did hug extra tight and even took time to memorize her face before she left.
I need you to let go.
Okay. And I just want to memorize your face. And I've done it.
And I need you to drown those snakes.
She was so down bad, it's hard not to feel sorry for her. But Teresa made the right call at the end of the day. Nat took it kind of hard and was crying all the way back home.
I'm doing great. Just a little hard to see while I'm crying. Oh, just lost a contact. I'm gonna make a professional decision and let someone else drive.
It's okay, girl. Bad bitches have bad days too. Bob decided to drive the limo back, and Nat promptly cried herself to sleep in the back of the limo. Bob overall had a more positive attitude about the day and even bonded with the baby garter snakes.
Holy crap!
Teddy, why are you in our bed?
I fell asleep. I didn't mean to. I'm sorry. I wasn't pretending to be you, I swear. And the bath made me very sleepy. I mean, I didn't even take a bath. Don't look in the bathroom. Can I sleep on your couch, please?
No.
Sure, I'll get you a pillow.
Got anything hyperallergenic?
As a little bonus, in the end credits, we even get a cute dance from Nat and Gene. I love this episode because we get to see a new side of Nat. We get to see her love a girl spirit. We've known her as a badass woman who just does what she wants whenever she wants. We are so used to her confidence and her overall assertive nature. However, in this episode, we see a softer side of her. She's a woman who loves hard and wants to be loved in return. However, she does seem to miss a lot of red flags and is willing to stay in a toxic relationship all in the name of love. Teresa had to end things because Nat wouldn't. She did them both a favor even if Nat doesn't see it like that. Love is supposed to be all warm and fuzzy, not filled with arguments and toxicity. Once Nat learns that, she'll be able to find her special person. Nat mentioned in her debut that she is no stranger to getting her heart broken. The thing is, Nat is a very particular type of person. She's not exactly what you would call normal. So I could see why she may have a difficult time dating. But every pot has their lid. I'm sure she'll find a girl that loves her brand of crazy, and then she'll have a partner for life. Speaking of, in this next episode we're about to talk about, she may have just found that person. So let's move on to our next Nat-based episode. The next time we see Nat is in season 12, episode 18, Clear and Present Ginger. This is the episode where we kind of met Ginger, but not really. But I am not going to talk about that because I want to save Ginger for another video. Long story short, Linda is excited for Ginger to drive down and come see her. Like, really excited. She has a song and everything. Nat shows up with a box of costumes for the night. The kids and Bob had decided to help Nat with her Limotational, which is basically a limo relay race for charity, specifically for a children's hospital. We love a charitable queen. Each of them has to help with a different part of the race. Bob is the businessman, Jean and Louise are the older ladies, and Tina is playing the part of the prom queen. Nat is nervous because she has a special guest coming, and she really wants to win and impress her. This is their second time hanging out, and the lady is bringing her daughter to watch Nat's race. It's clear that she likes her a lot. Like I said, she kind of loves hard pretty fast, so this tracks for her. Nat then leaves to drop off her lizard at the groomer and get things ready for that night. Later, the Belchers arrive looking great and ready to race. Nat welcomes them and points out Peggy and her daughter to them.
Okay, so you're all just looking at Peggy?
Yep.
I'm waggling my fingers at her. Wag, 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 wag.
Jane.
Now, let's win this thing to impress her so she falls in love with me and marries me and has children with me and we share lizards together.
This is their second date and she already wants her to marry her. I mean, love her girl over here. She sets out to win so that she can have a fairy tale life with this lady, and I admire the dedication. And since Nat was so determined, the Belchers were also determined to make that happen. Nat explains the rules to them and then offers them one of her homemade hot dogs for energy. What can't this woman do? I wonder if this is the hot dog she puts on her pizzas. On the side, Tina is texting Jimmy Jr. and is starting to obsess over prom. The prom dress she was wearing had her thinking about prom, and that kind of sent Tina into one of her obsessive spirals. The first challenge is a challenge called Keep That Coffee Off Me, where you have to drive a business person around with a cup full of coffee. The goal is to make it to the finish line without spilling coffee on the person. Sounds fun, honestly. I will fail because I am a bad driver. The worst part is that the coffee is actually hot, which sounds like a lawsuit, but whatever. No pain, no entertainment. Bob and Nat get in the car, and Nat tries her best to win Peggy's love. We don't see them crossing the finish line, but we do see the announcer checking over Bob. He comes back fully clean, except for the sweat stains, obviously. And with that, Nat wins round 1. Round 2 starts and is called Flight of the Living Wed.
It's time to take your two old ladies to the airport to catch a red-eye flight to their godson's destination wedding. They know the marriage won't last, but they love a buffet.
Jean and Louise, Ethel and Doris are up next. Louise is super excited because this challenge involves shooting cardboard zombies from the sunroof, a very Louise-coded challenge. Louise experienced true joy that day, which seems to happen a lot when she's around Nat. Bob cheers on his kids, but Tina is obviously distracted, so he checks up on her. Tina is obsessively texting Jimmy Jr. about prom, and he has yet to respond. And in case you're wondering, prom is 3 years away. Also, if you're wondering why it's only 3 years away instead of 4, Tina turned 14 in the season finale of season 12. That 2-parter finale with her and the robot, that was her birthday, so she turned 14. I'm just saying in case you got confused, because I was confused on why it's only 3 years away if she's, 13, but I forgot she turned 14 in season 12. Anyway, Tina is completely in her head about it. Jimmy Jr. is her go-to prom date because of course he is, and she was hoping that he'd be excited for it. But she doesn't know if he's going to be excited about it, and it made her worried that he wouldn't go to prom with her. Or worse, that nobody would go to prom with her. Look, I'm not trying to downplay the anxiety that comes with prom, because there is a lot of anxiety around that time. However, Tina girl, this is not a today problem, Bookie. You got 3 years. Who knows if she'd even like Jimmy Jr. in 3 years? What if she's dating someone else by then? The point is, she's driving herself crazy for no reason. A lot can happen in 3 years, so there's really no point in worrying about this. Anyways, we don't know if Nat won that round or not because they just moved on to the final challenge called Prom in 50 Seconds. But I'm assuming she lost because they didn't show it. Anyway, this challenge happens to be about a prom queen being stood up by the prom king, and she's all alone, which is very unfortunate timing for Tina, who is currently freaking out about prom. This kind of sends Tina into a full-blown panic mode. In this challenge, the prom queen must run down the track and hide behind a trash can, wait for the driver to parallel park, and then the driver has to carry the prom queen back to the limo to drive her back to prom. Tina gets in line, and then she starts running and running.
Tina, where are you going? Stop! Tina, no! Tina!
Oh, and she's gone. Bob tries to talk Tina down, but she has barricaded herself in that bathroom and refused to come out. Nat, Jean, and Louise has come over to see what's happening with Tina. Bob talks to Tina and tells her that maybe she could end up going without a date, but he doubts it. He knows that she's going to go to prom and have a good time with or without a date.
I know you'd rather go with a date, and that's probably what's going to happen because you're beautiful and smart and fun, but if it doesn't happen, you'll still have a good time because you'll get a nice dress, okay? And you'll dance, and you'll probably drink a little bit of alcohol, even though you shouldn't. And you'll look around and be like, I don't have to see any of these people ever again if I don't want to. You'll have fun because, Tina, you're fun.
I will? I am?
Yes, very much.
Tina calmed down and was able to come out the bathroom. She apologized for ruining this race for Nat. Luckily, Nat happens to be an amazing parallel driver, so she already finished that part of the race. Everyone else was still struggling to park, so they still had a shot at winning. Nat then picks her up and they resume the race.
What do we do? Oh, you're picking me up. Okay, bye, guys.
Look at her go.
That's our Tina.
I meant Nat, but Tina's fine too.
Nat wins and gets to impress her boo thing. A happy ending for our girl. On the way back, Jimmy Jr. calls back to say hi and apologize for missing prom. He assumed that he missed the announcements at school or something, but he didn't mean to miss it. But Tina reassures him that it's 3 years from now. Jimmy Jr. was like, oh, okay, then I'll call you back then, which was pretty cute, not gonna lie.
Okay, that's good. So, I'll call you back then?
Not if I call you first.
What?
Oh, never mind. Good night, Jimmy Jr. I knew they were good texts.
What?
Nothing. I meant to hang up. Bye.
With that, the episode ends. I do hope that this Peggy thing lasts, but we know with Bob's Burgers, the first choice may not always stick. For example, Teddy dated a couple of women before getting to Kathleen, so who knows how many people Nat will have to go through, but hopefully Peggy is a one-stop shop. I just want Nat to find someone and be happy. Nat just puts so much effort into other people's happiness and well-being that she deserves to be happy too. Currently, the last episode we've seen of Nat was actually this latest season. It was season 14, episode 3, titled The Picklorette, which I actually really enjoyed this episode. This episode was all about Gretchen and her fun sister. Like I said, I like this episode because it expanded on Gretchen, one of my fave characters. I mean, I feel like all Bob's Burger characters happen to be my fave, but I do love Gretchen. But seeing more of Gretchen and seeing her family was a real treat this season. Nat actually had a very small cameo instead of a big role this episode. Gretchen needed help putting together a bachelorette party for her little sister and asked Linda very nicely to help.
So I was wondering if your friend could help me out, and I'll forget all about you burning my lookbook that I worked on for 15 years!
Okay, yes, I'll call her.
Linda calls Nat to book her limo services, but sadly she's out of town. She's with her friend Axel for the week. Apparently he bought a bunch of goats and his neighbors were very rightfully furious at him. Nat offered to let them use her limo as long as someone trustworthy could drive it.
You just have to find a driver you can trust who's comfortable handling a large, elegant vehicle that's also a rolling work of art. Do you know someone like that?
I mean, what about me?
Done. You're a limo driver now.
Seriously?
And with that, we are officially caught up on everything Nat related.
Yes! Now I don't have to burn something you love.
And that was the last episode we've seen of her as of now. So, after all of this, what did we learn about our girl? Let's review. From the very first time she graced our screens, Nat was a whirlwind of fun. Nat is a lot of things all at once. Nat is eccentric yet relatable. She's both wholesome yet incredibly unhinged. Nat is chaotic yet also a positive influence on those in her life. And above all else, she is hilarious and highly quotable. You saw how many quotes I added in this video. I never add quotes. I usually just talk through the whole video, but it's impossible to talk about Nat without quoting her directly. If Teddy is kind of the desperate, unhinged uncle of the family, then Nat is for sure the cool lesbian auntie. Nat can be rebellious and definitely has a vengeful streak that even Louise is impressed by. Nat is also a type of person who loves hard and fast and with her whole heart. Nat is friendly and tends to bond with people rather quickly, and once she bonds with you, she is extremely loyal to a fault. She gets attached to people very quickly and doesn't seem to recognize when a relationship doesn't serve her anymore. And she has shown that she's willing to stay in a toxic relationship even when it's clear that things aren't working out. When it comes to the Belchers specifically, Nat is extremely loyal to them. She pretty much instantly bonded with Linda and has remained 10 toes down for her ever since. With Tina, Nat offers her support. Whether Nat is offering to run Jimmy Jr. over for her or standing there to comfort her when she's freaking out in the bathroom, Nat is there for her. And when it comes to the Belcher boys, she offers them support, loyalty, and helps them out whenever they're in a jam. When it comes to Louise, Nat serves as a role model and an inspiration for her. And this connection with Louise is more important than a lot of people realize. Louise has on more than one occasion felt insecure in the way that she expresses her femininity. She feels different from a lot of girls her age. However, through characters like Kaylee, Jessica, Tina, Nat, and even Linda, Louise is able to navigate these struggles and come out more confident. And it's because of the support of people like Nat and her parents that Louise can become more sure of herself. Seeing Nat be so loud and proud of every aspect of her life is comforting to Louise, and it's also comforting to the audience. People have specifically been asking me for a Louise-centered video, and I actually wanted to do one on how Louise navigates her girlhood. There are so many episodes where Louise questions herself and feels insecure on how she expresses herself as a girl, or how people underestimate her because she's a little girl. I think it would be a fun topic to do on Louise, because when it comes to main characters, doing videos like this is not impossible, it's just going to be kind of hard because there's so many facets to the Belchers. So if I'm going to be covering the main Belcher crew, I want to cover different sides of them. You know what I mean? Anyway, this is like a fun topic to do about Louise. Anyways, back to Nat. The point is, Nat is a ride or die friend for the Belchers. Their pain is her pain, and she takes care of them like a good friend would. She goes above and beyond for them without expecting anything in return. Nat has so much lore and little details inside her character. For example, I love that she hardly ever calls Bob by his nickname, which is Bob. She calls him Robert, Bob Reno, Mr. B, and pretty much anything besides Bob. And I love how in return, he's the only one in the show who called her Natalie. I love how she called Louise bunny ears, and when she didn't even know Gene's name, she just called him Boy Louise. It kind of reminds me of how Millie referred to Tina and Gene as not Louise boy and not Louise girl. There is a reason why Nat is so beloved in the fan base. I love seeing different versions of femininity on screen. We can explore those themes of what it means to be a girl who fits outside the social norms we grew up with. Nat is a person who expresses her womanhood in a very unconventional way. And I think that's what's so healing about a character like hers. Nat likes what she likes and does what makes her happy, regardless of how bizarre it may be to other people. Growing up in the early 2000s, we mostly saw two types of girls. Either girls who were hyper feminine, or we had the cool girls who were either tomboyish or rough. Occasionally you'll see a nerdy or a gothic girl, or maybe a sporty girl thrown in there, but she usually falls in that other girl category. The annoying part of it was that we were all put into boxes and categories and groups. However, Nat presents us with another option. The option that we can just be ourselves rather than fall into a certain group. And to someone like Louise who struggles to find girls she can relate to, that option is an important one for her. Don't try to fit in and change yourself. Just be you, and the right people will come along. Nat is a character that genuinely makes people smile. To queer women, characters like Nat are comforting and wholesome. Good lesbian representation is few and far between. I am personally still mad that they canceled First Kill from Netflix. I was all about season 1. Because representation is so few and far between, positive role models like Nat goes a long way. Characters like Willow and Tara, Calliope in Arizona, Brittany and Santana, or even Steph and Lena were trailblazers in their own right. Nat is just the newest addition to the long list of lovely lady lovers that we've grown to love, specifically in the animation department. I think what stands out the most about Bob's Burgers is that they treat their minority and their queer characters with respect. They aren't treated as a controversial hot topic, social discourse, or used to make subpar edgy jokes. They are treated as everyday characters with lives of their own. They feel like people you meet in real life. The normalcy of these characters is such an overlooked aspect of how Bob's Burgers shows its support for the community. It is exhausting when people are constantly politicizing your mere existence, or are constantly online getting mad that they're even being included in the media that they consume. Instead of being treated as a person, marginalized communities get treated as social statements. So that's why I believe that we deserve normal characters who just live their lives without it being a big deal. We deserve breaks from all the noise and discourse online. A lot of people just need a safe space to be themselves without people's unnecessary and often very prejudiced critiques. That's what characters like number 5 did for me personally. A little black girl who could just exist and be treated with the same amount of respect as her peers. And I believe that's what Nat does for a lot of lesbian women. Honestly, Nat does a lot for all of us. She makes everybody laugh, and I love that everybody's so willing to die for her if need be. And that is what makes her a gay icon. Every episode with Nat is an adventure. When she's in an episode, there's no such thing as a boring time. She is ready to join in on any crazy scheme you might be up to, and even add more chaos on top of it. She may not be lucky in love, but she makes up for it in the friends she makes along the way. Though luckily she is currently seeing Peggy as far as we know. And if Nat is a true lesbian, then she should be moved in with Peggy by their 4th date. Whether Nat is living in a lake, raising snakes and lizards, or throwing stink bombs at people, Nat is true to herself at all times. Nat is that girl, and you can't tell me any different. We all deserve a friend that is as dedicated to your happiness as Nat is. We as the audience have gone through a lot with Nat. She has made us laugh, she has made us cry, and she's brought us on the roller coaster of her love life. I truly cannot get enough of her, and I think 99% of you would agree that we need more of her. Like now, expeditiously. I personally cannot wait to see what adventures she takes us on next. So, here's to Natalie, our favorite lady in pink. Nat is the legend, the icon, and the chaotic friend that we all need to spice up our lives. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.